Hello, we'll just wait for the rest of the attendees to turn up. See how it goes. This is a webinar about installing a culture of digital security in your organisation, or how to build cyber resilience so that if something does happen, you can then go to the next level of protecting yourself. This was originally presented to the Law Council of New South Wales, and it's really designed just to give you an overview of what is happening in the digital world and what you can do as a business to protect yourself. There's no technology and acronyms involved in this conversation. We're out there to educate people, and if you're trying to educate people, technology and acronyms just don't come into the picture. So, instilling a culture of digital security in your organisation, building cyber resilience. Well, we've all seen it. Every day you can go to the newspaper, you can go to the internet, and we see constant reminders that things are happening that really shouldn't be happening. And cybercrime is now becoming very, very entrenched in the internet and the digital world, and we have to find ways of protecting ourselves from not being the next statistic. So what I'd like to do today is a little history of cybercrime and normal crime. So what we've seen in the past, how we instill that security mindset, changing that mindset of your users from not being aware of the problems to being aware of the problems, and then creating better awareness of what the digital world is there to offer. So let's have a look at crime and the evolution of crime. So how clever do you think normal criminals are? Well, originally we started off with one-on-one. You had something that I wanted, I took it away from you, and I used whatever means I could to do that. We then had in the 1600s the intervention of banks, railroads, stagecoaches, and we then had a group of people stealing from a larger group of people. So Billy the Kid, Ned Kelly, Ronald Biggs. And they were people who were stealing large amounts of money from a larger amount of people. Technology came into the picture in probably about 1990, was probably the most noticeable time. And in 1996, a Mexican drug lord got absolutely sick and tired of having all his drugs ripped off by the law enforcement agencies. So he decided to do something about it. And what he did was he created a mobile phone network in Mexico. All 32 states had mobile phones. They had the towers, they had the SIM cards, they had the mobile phones themselves. All the information going between those phones and towers was encrypted, and it took 12 months before law enforcement knew what was going on, and they still couldn't do anything about it. It took 3 years before they actually broke into the network and actually found out what was actually happening. By the time that the law enforcement had got in, they had moved on. They'd moved into better technology, newer technology, and a lot of better ways for them to communicate. Who remembers the Mumbai terrorist attack? 2008, Mumbai. A couple of terrorists came ashore, and one of the questions that I often get asked about this is, why did it take so long for them to get caught? Because it was literally 36 hours from their landing and their first initial killing to the dying of the last terrorist. And one of the things that came to note was, apart from they had lots of bullets and guns and rockets and grenades and everything else, they were using technology. They had mobile phones, they had night vision goggles, they had GPS. And after the wash up of what was happening, one of the things they did find out was they had an operations center in Pakistan. Now, an operations center takes a group of people and literally multiplies them. It's a force multiplier. It's one of the reasons why the SEALs use operations centers, because a group of 6 SEALs can appear like 100 of them if they know what they're doing and the operations center is telling them what to do. And this is what happened with the terrorists in Mumbai. So how clever do you think cyber criminals are? Well, one of the things that we've noticed with cyber criminals is they are very, very clever. In 2008, who remembers the internet security scam that came out? Where you'd get a piece of malware on your system, it would actually come up and look like an internet security blurb about you've been hacked or you've got malware on your system, and you now need to go to this place, download the real version and pay money for it. Well, it was run by a very clever Ukrainian gang. Clever, in fact, that they had business around what they were doing. In that business, they had 110 people. They had sales and marketing. They had morning, Adrian. They had sales and marketing. They had information that they were getting from other people. They had management teams. They had research and development. Now, out of that 110 people, 5 people were part of the criminal gang. Everybody else was just an innocent bystander who was working there. And that made it very interesting for them for what they were doing. From that information, the criminal gang actually made 500 million euros. And in that time, they actually paid tax on it. So what about Google and Android? In 2008, Google introduced Android to the world. And we had the first mobile phone with a operating system that was working properly. And it took the phone from the bricks that we were using to a smartphone. The trouble is the criminals also knew about it. And when Android Marketplace went live in 2008, there was a number of banking applications that were already in the system. And these banking applications had all the right logos, they had all the right systems. And people actually from Bank of America or Standard Bank or Lloyd's downloaded these apps, put all their digital information in, accounts, details, all of that sort of information, and nothing happened. And because nothing happened, they then went to the situation of ringing up the bank. And the answer from the bank was, we haven't got an application on the Android platform. Again, cyber criminals perceiving what the general public was going to do and go to that next level. Who ever heard of Diverse IT? Diverse IT was a hosting and domain company run out of Sydney in 2010. In the space of 24 hours, they lost $10 million. They lost control of all of their websites and all of their systems, to a level where they literally went into bankruptcy 24 hours later after it happened. And when it was happening, there was nothing they could do about it. Absolutely nothing. How about RSA in 2011? RSA was one of the big security components of the internet. They are the people who designed and implemented the SSL system, security, encryption, all of that sort of stuff. Now they got targeted and they got hacked. They got hacked to a level where they had the keys to the kingdom stolen, literally how we run the SSL certificates. And from there, they went and fought back. They actually then literally got all the malware out of the system and then changed the way they do business. And it's one of the best things that we've seen about how to do this if you do get hacked. But the problem with the RSA hack is we then had malware coming through that was had a digital certificate that was absolutely real because they had got how it had been set up. The target hack in 2013 was a criminal gang stealing from over 80 million people. So 1 in 3 Americans with a credit card had information or money stolen from them. But again, the criminals went to the next level. It's all very well stealing that information, unless you can get the information to do things that you want to do. Now, what the criminals also did with the target hack was they went, if you bought something in New York, in Target, then they only used that credit card in New York. So not even the banks realized what was going on. In addition to that, They created blank FPOS cards, credit cards, and literally went to machines and pulled money straight out of the system itself. Again, three-pronged attack, very hard to counteract. But more recently, we've seen Sony Pictures in 2014. We've seen Hacking Team this year, and we've seen Ashley Madison only a couple of weeks ago. And again, it's all because we do not think about how dangerous the cyber criminal is. They really people have no understanding about what's going on. So what do they all have in common? Well, one of the things that we've found is default passwords of systems that have been implemented haven't been changed. Now I can jump on the internet and find out the default password for a printer if I need to. But when you're talking about things like routers and switches and wireless access points, then we have got a problem. They use passwords like password. The hacking team, one of the administrators had a password of password. So this is one of the problems we've got. There was no network segmentation. In other words, critical information was alongside stuff that wasn't important. So we never saw, or if you got into the non-important stuff, you had access to the rest of the stuff. And one of the things that really highlighted what was going on was there was no patching done. Because a lot of these problems wouldn't arrive if there was patching done on their systems. The most notable thing about it was there was no penetration testing. Now, penetration testing is one of those things that people go, why the hell would I need that? Well, a penetration test, if it's done properly, will actually tell you that you're using default passwords. You've got passwords of insufficient security. You've got information next to basic information, or you haven't patched systems. And this is why penetration testing is so important, because it then gets you to the level where the cyber criminals are going to go somewhere else to hack into. At every point of the PCI or payment card industry components, there was a failure. They had forgotten to patch credit card information. They've forgotten to encrypt databases. All of this sort of stuff, as I said, would not have been noticeable without a pen test. You do a pen test, this information would have come about. And then you can make risk analysis decisions based on, yes, we know that's vulnerable, but how would they get to it? And if the penetration tester got to it, the bad guys can get to it as well. And again, this is very important for how we manage security and make sure that we are safe. In the last 24 hours, we've seen new technology come onto the market that is probably going to change the world. And that is the IoT problem, the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things is literally your Fitbit, your systems of being able to protect yourself from your washing machine or your fridge. And it's also come about because of a number of characteristics of the internet that we have to change. It was only made possible by the introduction of IP version 6. Now, IP version 4 had 32 bits long, so it was 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, 32 times, which gave us about 4.3 billion addresses that we could use. And each component that is attached to the digital world needs a specific address. Otherwise, it can't communicate with what's going on. Well, IP version 6 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 to 128. So it gives us 340 unidecillion. That's number. And it is huge. But they reckon we're going to run out of numbers in 20 years. We'll run out of addresses because everything will have an address. But these addresses make it possible for things like refrigerators to send out spam, your TV to spy on you, your AC to become a listening device. And this has happened to a defense contractor in America where their boardroom was actually bugged by the AC. And what about if you're asked by your fitness tracker in a discovery process when you're going into a court of law to show that certain times of the day you were overly fit. What were you doing? Running or doing something else? So when it comes to cyber criminals, we do not give them enough credit for what they do. They are one of those groups of people that we really forget how clever they are. But the cyber criminal, if you're looking at the high-end people, they're running a cybercrime business. They innovate, they organise, they sell and market, they have sales, they use R&D, they compete, and most importantly, they adapt to what's going on in the digital world. They adapt so fast that most businesses have not even thought of the technology that they're using before the cyber criminal has found a way around it. And this is the problem we've got to think about. Everything is going digital. Everything is going onto the internet. So we have to find ways of protecting ourselves, because the digital world was not designed to be secure. It wasn't designed to be that overall security component that we keep looking at and having kittens about. So as I said, the bad guys are clever. They come up and innovate on things that we don't even think are going to be incorporated into our business, only to find that they are. They are persistent. There was a recent hack that happened 2 days ago, and they reckon the bad guys and a piece of malware had been inside the network for 12 months. So it shows how patient they are. That little piece of malware that would have been sitting inside that network would have been gathering all of that information and all of the stuff that they needed to know. It would have been collecting usernames and passwords and where information is gathered and where it is all stored. And it's not until someone goes, the bad guys go, we want that data outside now, let's suck it out. That's usually the time when people actually see what's happening. The worst part about cyber criminals is they understand the digital. They talk in ones and zeros. We talk in English and French and German. They talk in ones and zeros, and it is a universal language, and they can make it run rings around us. And it is very important that you always remember that. And on top of that, even though they are clever, there is always someone out there who knows more about the system, who knows more about a product, who knows more about a technology. And because they know more, they know ways around it. And they know ways around what we do. When it comes to technology, the cyber criminal looks at not only what the technology can do, but what he can make the technology do that we haven't even thought about. And that's where they are winning the war. Cyber criminals are relentless. Their attacks are constant, highly sophisticated, and not going to go away. And one of the things that small business, medium business, not-for-profit organisations, even larger businesses do not understand is there's no silver bullet. There's no set and forget piece of technology that you can put in there that will protect you 100%. And even with a holistic outlook on security, you still are not perfectly secure. The only way to be secure is unplug yourself from the digital world. And that's not going to happen. So why is it so hard to stop them? Well, one of the reasons why it's so hard to stop them is we have to win all the time. We have to be ahead of the curve because they only have to win once. And they only win once and you're being compromised. And you have a major problem in your hands of what you're going to do next. We all know what they're after. Well, do we? Well, we know they want access to money. They want access to money, they want access to trust funds, they want access to any information that they can glean that will be beneficial to them. They are also after your intellectual property, your trade secrets, your tactics, how you are going to defend against a prosecutor, how you're going to manipulate a divorce proceedings. All of that information to the other party or someone else is gold, literally liquid gold. But more importantly, they're after client information. Because with client information, they can do a lot more damage. because we collect information for reasons that don't make any sense at times. Why would you need my driver's license, my date of birth, my tax file number if I'm just signing up for something really inefficient? But one of the things that they are also after is your technology. They're after your Wi-Fi. They're after your router. They're after your databases. They're after cloud technology. They're after your computers. They're after your smart devices. All of that technology is literally how they target X. And each of those pieces of technology has a value in the dark web. And that value can vary from an email account, which will get them somewhere between $20 and $30 in the dark web, to a complete computer, which will get them $50 or $60. Now, if you think about it, if I send out 1 million emails with a spam link on them and only 1% click on it, that's 1,000. And from that 1,000, I can now get paid $20,000. Or if better, if I compromise their total system, I've got $50,000. And those emails will have come from compromised systems. So let's think about digital security. Have you heard about all of these things? Do you know what jailbreak is? Well, a jailbreak is when you take a smartphone and you then take the operating system and change it so it's not doing what it's supposed to do. And jailbreaking is usually applied to the younger generation because they want to have features on their phones that normal people don't have. How about apple picking? This came about 2011, 2012 in New York. And it was literally when the iPhone came out, people were stealing them out of people's hands as they were walking down the street on a phone call. Grab, run, take SIM card out, throw the SIM card away, run off with the phone. This was before Apple got smart and started locking down systems to making sure that only one person or one user can have access to it. Shoulder surfing. We've all heard about shoulder surfing in places like restaurants and cafes. What about in your office? Got a nice bay window behind you and your computer in front of you? Who can see it? How about a rat? A rat is a remote access Trojan. And a remote access Trojan is one of the bad guys' most efficient weapons that they have got. Because what it does is it literally installs onto a piece of technology and calls home. When it calls home, it's given instructions, pick up this information, download this system, install it on this, wait until you're asleep, do whatever you like. And then there we have the man in the middle. I was talking about access points and routers. A man in the middle of an attack is someone who actually compromises a router or a watering hole, somewhere where people are going to congregate, and actually implements their own system or changes it around so that it makes sure that it's their access and their system. And they then collect all the information that goes through that. So hey, let's have a look at the basics. The basics of how you protect yourself are really the basics. We have to patch everything, and there's a lot of conjecture about what we should be doing. We have to patch everything. Whenever Microsoft comes out and goes, you have updates, you have updates, you have updates, and get really, really annoyed about it, it's not because they're trying to be annoying. They are trying to make sure that you are a lot more safe than you were if you didn't apply the updates. Passwords, the bane of our existence on the internet. And passwords are how we get into sites or get into information that we have access to. But passwords have to be unique, they have to be more than 8 characters long, and they have to be complex. And that in itself is just one of the problems we've got with them. I'd like to come back to passwords. Make sure you're running an antivirus. Antivirus, although everybody says, oh, that doesn't do any good, it does do good. For the simple fact it catches the basics. And the basics are what most people are going to see. We're not going to be a target of a higher level hacking attack because we haven't got the requirements that the hacker is after, a large payday or really good information. But there are areas where that may be different. I had a client, one person, who did $34 million worth of transactions in a year. High tide for a cyber criminal. One of the things about the digital world is the information is fluid. The information is fluid to a level where it pulls and it moves around. But because of that, we need to make sure that we have ways of backing it up, have a way of keeping it so that if something does happen to that piece of technology, we're not going to lose it. The other thing we need to look at is firewalls. Firewalls are what protect you from the digital world on your device. And most people have this nasty habit of turning them off. And to me, it's really stupid if you turn that off at that level. Now, the two things that I also like is be paranoid. Because if you're paranoid, you're thinking about protecting yourself. And in the digital world, it's not really paranoia because everybody is out there. And they are out to get you. And the last component of the basics is use common sense. When it happens, common sense is really important to make sure that you are not going to do something stupid. When you see that free thing on the internet, don't click it. And that is really important for protecting yourself. So let's go a little more in depth. Your physical office security. Most people consider this really important, and there's a good reason for it. If we don't have alarms on doors and windows, and we don't have safety glass on windows, then there is a good chance that the normal criminal can come through the door and rip you off. But in digital security, we're looking at defense in depth. And defense in depth for physical information is making sure that there is a break between people coming in the door and people getting to the main offices. How they get there, do you have a gatekeeper, do you have electronics in the way? Again, making sure that only the people who have access are allowed to access it. And this also counteracts if you've got unknown people in the office. Do they have badges? Do you know them? In addition to that, when you leave your desk, do you quite happily just walk away? You don't log off, don't lock the computer, don't have a policy and procedure in place that actually physically locks it for you. All of that information, again, is also very important. And educate your staff. Not so much about free Wi-Fi, but educate your staff about unknown people at the office, leaving their desks. What are they going to do? As I said, passwords, they know our existence. They have to be unique. They have to be more than 8 characters. They have to be complex. And even internal systems need complex passwords. Now, the reason why I say that is we've got a number of clients who we've changed their minds. They have things like practice management systems or real estate management systems. And their username was initials and their password was initials. And their whole business runs through this system. Keeps track of their properties, keeps track of who does what, what's being paid for, what's not being paid for, who their clients are. All of that information is gold to a cyber criminal. And we've got initials and initials. Not a good idea. Then we have our email. Now, email is the #1 attack weapon of the cyber criminal. And it originally started with spam. Up until 2010, spam was literally Nigerian princes wanting money, Viagra, all of those sort of things. We then had phishing. And phishing has continued on since 2010. And phishing is things like the crypto virus that comes in as disguised as an ATO email or a post office email. But the cyber criminal has gone one further, and this is where they really do get clever. is they've designed spear phishing attacks. Now, a spear phishing attack is something that people really do not understand about what is happening. Because a spear phishing attack is created by having information about the person they're sending the email to. So, Joe Blog at joeblog.com. Who the hell is Joe Blog? Well, let's go and have a look. We look up Joe Blog on the internet and he's the managing director. He likes phishing. He's very good at what he does as a job, which is building stuff. Okay? So I'm going to sit there and go, well, I know that about him. Which one would have a bigger impact? We're inviting you to a phishing competition for 50% less, or we are going to pamper your personality by saying, we'd like you to speak at a webinar or seminar that we're holding. Click on this link to register. Gotcha. And that's why spear phishing is so dangerous. Exploits are how the bad guys get in. They get in because there is systems that need, systems are being created by humans. And because systems are being created by humans, we make mistakes. So malware and exploits are targeting those mistakes. 95% of those mistakes are benign. They really do not have any impact on the business at all. Even though there's a lot of applications out there which will say, we've got 10 serious exploits, we're going to patch them. But the 11th one is a critical one. And that is the one that allows an attacker to exploit your system. So we make sure that it is not there. Infected websites are just like a normal situation. In business, we have servers or cloud environments, we have a connection device, and then we have the person behind that. Well, websites have a very similar infrastructure. They have a server that has all the information on it, have individual websites or individual domains, and then a website on top of that, which is running an application, WordPress, Joomla, anything like that. Both of these have the same environment. You have to make sure that not only is your website secure, but where you're hosting it is secure and the infrastructure is secure. And they cannot be exploited as well. I was hosted on a company that hadn't updated cPanel in 5 years. So I quite happily moved. Mainly because A, the functionality of the old cPanel wasn't what I wanted, but on top of that, there were so many exploits in the old cPanel that you have to do something about it. One of the things that we often forget about is the insider, whether he's malicious or unintentional. If they are inside your network, then the problem with finding out who they are and what they're doing is exponentially hard. And exponentially hard because we don't know what they're doing. And one of the things that we specify and get people to do as much as possible is to make sure that we're using two-factor authentication. Now, two-factor authentication is something I have and something I am. Username and password, mobile phone, tablet, computer, whatever. But that's with the authentication. It's also used to encrypt a lot of information as well. And when it's used to encrypt information, it's very important that those two components are kept separate. That thing that we have, that mobile phone, could be a dongle with a set of numbers that change every 3 minutes. But it is making sure that that information is secure. Now, I'd like to talk about penetration testing. It's all very well saying, the IT department saying, yes, they've done it all. Yes, we're quite happy. We've got reports that say that we are secure. Well, the reports are generated by the people who build the systems. So Cisco gives you a report that says we've caught all this information. What about the information they haven't caught? And we are so good, and this is how we are, and show and tap it and carry on. But penetration testing takes it to that next level. For one, it's outside the organization. Outside of the organization doesn't have the politics that are involved in the organisation. We don't have the complexities of the CEO and the CIO and the IT manager getting together and going, yeah, we're secure. Because a penetration test will actually prove whether you're secure. And why are we going to do this? Well, for one, we're going to test our defences. We're going to make sure that the real basic stuff, A, won't get in, because if the basic stuff gets in, then we've got a problem with the more complex stuff coming in. And the idea is to do regular, irregular tests. So do it on Monday and do it on a Saturday the following week. Because that makes sure that you are securing your information. And the reports that are generated by a penetration test will usually show you what is involved. We did a penetration test on X, and these are the faults we found. We're not saying that they are things that the bad guys are using or could be doing. What we're saying is these could be a problem. And now it is up to you to analyze it and add your risk component to make sure that your business is now secure and how much money you want to spend to resolve the problem. And penetration testing will improve your digital security, because the penetration test will use the same tactics and strategies that the cybercriminals are using. And they will find ways into your system that you didn't think possible. And that is what they are there for. They are there to find that hole. And if they don't find a hole, they'll give you a big red tick and go, thank you very much, we're out of here. But you still need to do it regularly. The bad guys rely on us to trust them. When I meet someone, shake hands, see what they look like, see their demeanour, watch their body language. When we meet someone in the digital world, we are relying on only one sense, and that is sight. And that can be manipulated, as we all know. How many times have we put up a photo from 20 years ago? And if we do it, why can't the bad guys do it? Social media is also part of that trusting environment. And social media is really, really one of the places where the cyber criminals gets a lot of information that we didn't mean to expose. And because we've exposed that information, it's out there. And one of the things about the digital world is once it's out there, and you can't do anything else. So what do we have to do? Well, we've got to change the mindsets of all of the users inside your organisation. We've got to convince people that we all have something worth stealing. Doesn't matter what it is, whether it's my date of birth or the IP on the newest widget that we're working on, we all have something worth stealing. It can happen to anybody. Doesn't matter whether you're an IT guru or a total novice. It can happen to anybody, and everything you do needs to protect you. And the final part of this is there's no such thing as being too small to be a target. Even a one-man band has intellectual property, the way he does business. He has contacts that he wants to keep private. He has money and access to money. All of this information to the cyber criminal is what they're after. So we can't be too small. So how do we create awareness? Awareness created within the business, run competitions. Doesn't have to be high grade, but use your internal website to have a daily question on digital security. How long should your password be? What characters should you use? Why do you need to patch your system? If it comes up in the bottom left-hand corner and your system trainer says you need to apply updates, why do we do it? So what you're doing is you're educating your people and you're training your people. Education is for your main people. Training is for your IT staff. So that when they do put in that all-round singing, dancing firewall that you've just purchased, they actually understand it and they know what to do with it. In addition to that, put up posters. There's a The digital security toolbox, which is available at the end of this, has 15 posters that you can print, take them to Officeworks, print them off, quite happily stick them around your office. Get people thinking above what they're thinking at the moment. So how do we build resilience? We have to have a mantra. Cybersecurity is not just an IT problem. It's an everybody problem. It's a human problem. If we protect ourselves, then we will protect the rest of the organisation. And that is really important when it comes to protecting your business. It's no longer about perimeters and borders. We really do live in a borderless world. I can go to a cafe and sit there for 2 hours and do more work in the cafe than I can in the office because I'm not interrupted. But everything I do there is uploaded to my SkyDrive. So we no longer have borders to worry about. And we have to focus on internal controls. We have to make sure that the policies and procedures and processes that we've got in place make sure that we are protecting the organisation to a level where it's better for a cyber criminal to go somewhere else. And that's really important, because if they're going somewhere else, they're not targeting you. You can never presume you're not a target, because the moment you do that, it will come back and bite you. As I said, you don't have to have anything at all except access to your computer, and that is their target. From the 1990s all the way through to 2011, 2012, we had set and forget security. I put my antivirus in, I put my firewall in, and that was all the security I had to worry about. Doesn't work like that anymore, because the cyber criminals have got more cunning, they are cleverer, they are looking for ways to exploit us. And one of the things you've got to remember is it doesn't matter what we think and how secure we are, any attack can succeed. It can get through our defenses. An email might get through that someone has clicked on, which has given a criminal access to that PC. And from that PC, they can do a lot of damage. That is why you have to make sure you have backups. You have a disaster recovery plan. You have a business continuity plan. Because what happens in your business if you have a crypto attack and it encrypts all the information on your shared drives? Now what are you going to do? One of the things that is very hard for people to understand is your staff people and your people on staff front-facing to the clients are really very, very intelligent people. And they will see something happening on a PC long before bells and whistles go off in the back office. They will know that something has happened, and you have to listen to them. You have to make sure that what is happening to them is not a cyber attack. So in conclusion, the bad guys are persistent, they're clever, and one of the things that people forget is they are always on. They are always there to take advantage of us. The increased connectivity that we're now experiencing with IP version 6 will increase the threat services of all organizations. People can work from home. People now have PCs that at home that could be infected, which could infect internal systems. Your users can be your biggest protection, or they can be your largest problem, because they can either be your allies or your enemies, and you really need to have them as allies. And everyone is a target. If you think like that all the time, then everyone is a target. The automated systems in the digital world make everybody a target, and you have to think about that all the time. So if you want more information, there's a book available. There's the Basics of Business Information Security. Now, these two are both available for free, well, part of the digital toolbox. And again, if you want to get in touch with us or contact us in any way, just Slack us on SME Security, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, Facebook, YouTube, you name it, we're probably out there. We run seminars and webinars, Google Hangouts, which is the one you're on, and we run a seminar. And the seminar is Sydney, Canberra, and Melbourne every month, and Adelaide, Perth, and Brisbane every quarter. And if you want to book that, jump onto the website. Thank you very much. Are there any questions?